Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. If you've ever felt like life hits you harder than most, if you've ever wondered why people resent you for no reason, or why doors seem to open just when you were ready to give up, then listen closely, because what you're experiencing isn't random. It's not luck. It's favor. But let's get one thing straight. Favor doesn't always come wrapped in ease and comfort. It comes with battles, tests, and sometimes isolation. If you're a woman who's constantly misunderstood, constantly fighting through storms, yet somehow always rising, then this message is for you. You need to hear this, because once you recognize the signs, you'll never doubt your path again. Stay with me until the end of this speech, because what I'm about to reveal will shift the way you see your struggles, your journey, and your destiny. Life has a way of testing those who are built for something greater. If you are a woman who has endured pain, setbacks, and challenges that would have broken others, yet you keep rising, then understand this: what you have is not ordinary. It is not just strength, and it is not just perseverance. It is something deeper. It is something divine. There's a reason why you have survived what others could not. The betrayals, the heartbreaks, the losses. These were not just random events. They were meant to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for something bigger. Many people wish for favor, but few can handle what comes with it. Favor doesn't just bring blessings. It brings battles. It brings tests that are designed to prove whether you are truly ready for the life you were meant to live. Think about all the times you have felt like giving up but didn't. Those moments when the weight of the world was pressing down on you, but somehow you kept going. You weren't given an easy path, but you were given the strength to walk it. You have something inside you that refuses to break, something that refuses to settle, something that tells you no matter what happens, you will not be defeated. That is not just willpower, that is favor. You have faced situations that drained you emotionally, mentally, and even physically. People have walked away from you. Some have even betrayed you after you gave them your loyalty. You have been judged, misunderstood, and even ridiculed for the way you think, for the way you move, for the way you choose to live your life. But let me tell you something. Every great woman, every woman who has ever made an impact has gone through seasons where she felt alone, where she felt like nobody understood her. That's because being set apart means you will not fit in. Look back at your life and see the patterns. Every time you thought you reached your breaking point, you found strength you didn't know you had. Every time you thought you lost everything, somehow you rebuilt. That is not luck. That is the resilience that comes with being favored. There are people who have been through half of what you have, and they are still stuck. They are still lost. But you kept moving. You found a way to keep pushing forward even when you had every reason to quit. That is not normal. That is a sign that there is something greater on your life. And here's what you need to understand. Favor does not mean your life will be easy. It does not mean you will be exempt from struggle. In fact, it often means the opposite. The most favored people go through the toughest battles. They endure the most intense struggles, not because they are being punished, but because they are being prepared. Think about a diamond. It does not become valuable without pressure. It does not shine without being cut. The process is painful, but the result is something rare and priceless. That is you. Everything you have been through, every challenge, every loss, every time you had to pick yourself up off the ground, it was all part of your refinement. It was all meant to shape you into the woman you were always meant to be. And yet, despite everything, you are still here. You still have dreams. You still have the fire inside you to keep going. That alone should tell you something. Because if favor were not on you, you would have given up a long time ago. The world is full of people who settle. People who stop fighting for themselves, who allow life to break them. But you are different. You are the kind of woman who refuses to be defined by her past. You are the kind of woman who uses pain as fuel, who turns setbacks into comebacks. You may not see it now, but everything you have been through was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to position you. It was meant to strengthen you so that when the blessings come, you will be ready to receive them. So the next time you wonder why life has tested you the way it has, remember this: you were never meant to have an average life. You were built for something greater, and everything you have endured is proof of that. Your resilience is not just strength, it is a sign. It is the mark of a woman who is favored. And when you truly understand that, you will stop questioning your journey and start embracing it. Because the struggles are temporary, but the favor on your life, that is forever. You have always felt different, even when you were surrounded by people, even when you were part of a group. There was something in you that made you feel like you didn't quite belong. It wasn't that you weren't good enough. It wasn't that you lacked anything. In fact, it was the opposite. You saw things differently. You processed the world in a way that others couldn't understand. And because of that, you often found yourself on a path that felt lonely. But let me tell you something, that loneliness was never a mistake. It was never a punishment. It was a sign that you were set apart. Because when you are called to something greater, you cannot walk the same path as everyone else. You cannot do what everybody else does. You cannot be influenced by the same things that influence the world. That separation, that feeling of being different, was always intentional. Look back on your life. How many times have you tried to fit in, only to feel out of place? How many times have you tried to be like everyone else, only to realize that it wasn't who you were meant to be? That was not a coincidence. That was protection. Because when you are favored, you cannot afford to be shaped by just anything. You cannot afford to let just anyone into your space. You may have noticed that no matter how much you care about people, no matter how much love you pour out, there are moments when certain relationships just fall apart. Friendships that seem strong suddenly become distant. People you trusted suddenly walk away. And sometimes it feels unfair. You ask yourself, why do the people I care about leave? Why do I always feel like I am walking alone? But what if I told you that the reason some people leave is because they were never meant to stay? What if I told you that certain people had to be removed from your life because they could not go where you were going? See, when you are destined for something greater, not everyone can handle it. Not everyone can understand it. And not everyone is supposed to be a part of it. Think about the times you tried to hold on to people who no longer served you. Think about the moments when you begged for love, for support, for friendship from people who could not give it to you. And then think about what happened when you finally let them go. Did your life fall apart, or did you find a new kind of peace? That is the pattern of someone who is favored. People will come and go, but every time someone leaves, you grow. Every time you are separated from someone, you get stronger. Because favor is not just about what you gain, it is also about what you lose. It is about being refined, about having the wrong influences stripped away so that you can fully step into the life that was meant for you. You may have moments where you wonder why you have to walk this path alone. You may have nights where you feel like nobody truly understands what you are going through. But let me remind you, diamonds are not made in crowded spaces. They are formed in the deepest, darkest places under the most intense pressure. And when they emerge, they shine in a way that nothing else can. That is what is happening to you. You are being set apart, molded, and strengthened. You are being placed in a position where you can hear your own voice, where you can build your own strength, where you can become exactly who you were meant to be. And yes, sometimes that process is lonely, but that loneliness is not an accident. It is part of the journey. So the next time you feel like you don't belong, the next time you feel like you are walking this road alone, remind yourself of this: you are not being left behind. You are being elevated. You are not being abandoned. You are being protected. Because when you are favored, you cannot afford to be surrounded by just anyone. You cannot afford to be influenced by the wrong voices. You cannot afford to have your energy drained by people who do not align with your purpose. There will come a time when everything makes sense, when you look back and realize that every separation was actually a blessing, when you see that every loss was making space for something greater. And in that moment, you will no longer question why you had to walk alone, because you will understand that you were never really alone. You were simply being positioned for something far beyond what you could have. You don't settle. That has always been one of the defining things about you. No matter how difficult life gets, no matter how tempting it is to take the easy way out, you refuse to accept less than what you know you deserve. And that is rare, because in a world where so many people compromise on their dreams, on their values, on their worth, you stand firm. You do not lower your standards just to fit in. You do not accept mediocrity just because it's easier. You push forward even when it's hard, even when it means walking alone. But let's be honest, that strength, that unwillingness to settle has come with a price. It has made you different. It has made people misunderstand you. Some have called you too picky, too independent, too much. They wonder why you don't just accept what life gives you, why you don't just go along with the crowd. But what they don't understand is that when you are favored, you cannot afford to settle. When you are called to something greater, you cannot waste time with things that are beneath you. You have seen what happens when people settle. You have watched people stay in jobs that drain them, in relationships that break them, in situations that keep them stuck. You have seen people give up on their potential because they were afraid to reach for more. And you decided that would never be you. You decided that you would rather struggle for something great than stay comfortable in something average. That kind of mindset is not common. It takes courage to walk away from things that do not serve you. It takes strength to demand more, to believe that you are worthy of something better. And that strength is proof of something powerful. It is proof that you are not just anybody. It is proof that you have something in you that refuses to be ordinary. Think about all the times you could have settled but didn't. The relationships you walked away from because you knew they were not right for you. The opportunities you turned down because they did not align with your purpose. The moments when you chose growth over comfort, even when it was painful. Those decisions were not easy, but they were necessary. Because every time you chose not to settle, you were stepping closer to the life that was meant for you. You know what? It is easy to lower your standards when life gets hard. It is easy to convince yourself that maybe you are expecting too much, that maybe you should just take what you can get. But deep down, you know that is not the path you are meant to walk. Deep down, you know that the reason you feel so strongly about what you deserve is because you are meant for more. Not everyone will understand your mindset. Some people will tell you that your standards are too high, that you should stop being so difficult. But those are the voices of people who have settled in their own lives. People who have convinced themselves that they cannot have more, and so they want you to believe the same. Do not listen to them. Do not let their limitations become yours. Because here's the truth. When you refuse to settle, you may have to wait longer for what you deserve. You may have to go through seasons of loneliness, seasons of uncertainty. But when what is meant for you finally arrives, it will be worth it. You will not have to force it. You will not have to compromise your values. It will align perfectly with who you are, because it was always meant for you. So do not doubt yourself. Do not question why you feel so strongly about the things you want. That desire for more, that refusal to accept less, is not arrogance. It is not stubbornness. It is a sign. A sign that you are not like everyone else. A sign that you are being guided towards something greater. You were never meant to live an average life. You were never meant to settle for relationships, careers, or opportunities that do not fully align with who you are. And the fact that you feel that so deeply, the fact that you have always known that you were meant for more, is all the proof you need. So keep holding your standards high. Keep walking away from things that do not serve you. Keep believing that what is meant for you will come, because when it does, you will realize that every moment of waiting, every sacrifice, every lonely night was preparing you for something that was worth every single second. There is something about you that draws people in. Maybe they can't quite put their finger on it, but they feel it. It's in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you move through life. You have a presence that commands attention, not because you seek it, but because it's simply who you are. And that kind of presence, it's rare, it's powerful, it's undeniable. People notice when you walk into a room, even when you're silent. You don't have to be the loudest person. You don't have to fight for attention. It just naturally gravitates toward you. Some admire it, others envy it, but no one can ignore it. And it's not just about confidence. It's not just about how you look or how you dress. It's deeper than that. It's the energy you carry. It's the way you make people feel. There's something about you that makes people pay attention. You inspire, you make people rethink things, you challenge them, even when you don't say a word. But here's the thing, this kind of presence, this kind of favor, it doesn't come without challenges. When you stand out, people react to you in different ways. Some will admire you. Some will be drawn to your energy and want to be around you. But others will feel threatened by it. They will try to tear you down, try to make you doubt yourself, not because you've done anything wrong, but simply because your presence reminds them of what they are not. You may have noticed that some people act differently around you. Some are overly nice, almost as if they are trying to win your approval. Others seem distant or cold for no reason at all. That's not about you. That's about them. That's about how your presence makes them feel about themselves. Some people will love you without even knowing why. They will be drawn to your energy, inspired by your strength, comforted by your kindness. But others will resent you for the same reasons. They will try to find flaws, try to bring you down, try to convince others that you are not who you appear to be, not because they truly believe it, but because they cannot handle the fact that you shine in a way they don't understand. And this is where many people struggle. This is where the weight of your presence can start to feel heavy. You may find yourself wondering why certain people dislike you, why some try to bring drama into your life when all you've done is exist. You may even start questioning yourself, asking if you need to dim your light, if you need to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable. But you were not given this presence, this favor, just to hide it. You were not meant to blend in. You were not meant to shrink yourself to make others feel bigger. Your presence is a gift, a responsibility, a sign that you were meant to lead, to inspire, to stand tall no matter who is watching. It may not always feel easy. Some days you may feel like being invisible would be simpler, like life would be smoother if you just faded into the background. But that is not who you are, and deep down you know that. So do not apologize for the way you walk into a room, and own it. Do not apologize for making people uncomfortable simply by being yourself. If your presence disturbs them, that is not your problem to fix. That is something within them that they need to work through. Stand tall in who you are. Carry your energy with confidence. Let the right people be inspired by you, and let the wrong ones reveal themselves. But never, ever shrink yourself for the sake of making someone else feel bigger. You were meant to stand out. You were meant to lead. You were meant to shine. You have faced storms that would have broken most people. You have walked through fire and came out on the other side stronger than ever. Life has tested you in ways that many will never understand, yet here you are, standing, still moving forward, still refusing to give up. That is not by accident. That is not luck. That is resilience. And resilience is not something you are born with, it is something you earn. Through every battle, every heartbreak, every moment where you could have let life break you, but you didn't. Think back to the moments that tried to destroy you, the times when you felt like you had nothing left to give, the times when the weight of life was pressing so hard against you that you questioned whether you could keep going. You remember those moments, don't you? Because they weren't just hard, they were defining. They were the moments that shaped you, that revealed who you truly are. You didn't just survive those storms, you grew through them. You became wiser. You became stronger. You became someone who cannot be shaken so easily. And that is why people look at you differently. They don't always understand what it is about you, but they can feel it. They can sense that you are not like everyone else, that you carry something deeper, something unbreakable. That kind of strength does not come from an easy life. It comes from being tested, from being put in situations where you had no choice but to fight, no choice but to endure. And because you did, because you refused to let those hardships define you in a negative way, you now carry a presence that is undeniable. But here's the thing, when you have been through so much, when you have survived things that most people could never imagine, it changes you. It makes you see the world differently. You no longer tolerate things that drain your energy. You no longer entertain people who do not respect your peace. You no longer waste time on things that do not align with your purpose. Because when you have fought to rebuild yourself, you don't just let anyone or anything tear you down again. Not everyone will understand your strength. Some will see it as intimidating. Some will mistake your resilience for coldness, your boundaries for arrogance. They do not realize that the reason you carry yourself the way you do, the reason you refuse to settle, is because you had to learn the hard way that not everything is meant for you, that some battles are meant to teach you when to walk away, that some people were never meant to stay. You may find yourself outgrowing people, places, situations, and that's okay. That's part of the process. Growth comes with separation. Strength comes with lessons. You are not the same person you used to be, and you are not supposed to be. The things that used to break you no longer have power over you. The opinions that used to control you no longer matter. That is what happens when you have been refined by fire. You come out unshaken, unbothered, and unafraid. And that kind of strength, that kind of resilience, it is rare. It makes you stand out. It makes people take notice. Even when you say nothing at all, you have become someone who cannot be easily broken. And that is why life keeps testing you, because every challenge is just another reminder that you are built for more. So, do not apologize for your strength. Do not shrink yourself to make others feel comfortable. The right people will respect it. The wrong ones will reveal themselves. But you keep standing. You keep moving forward, because no matter what comes next, you have already proven one thing: you are unbreakable. Your intuition is powerful. It's not just a feeling, it's a force, a knowing, a deep awareness that speaks to you in ways that logic never could. You felt it before, haven't you? That gut instinct that told you something wasn't right? That voice inside you that warned you about a person before they ever showed their true colors? That unshakable feeling that told you to move, to leave, to change direction, even when you didn't fully understand why? And every time you've ignored it, you've paid the price. You've learned, sometimes the hard way, that your intuition is not something to be dismissed. It is not random. It is not something to second guess. It is your inner guide, your protection, your direct connection to what is meant for you and what is not. And when you start trusting it, truly listening to it, your life begins to shift in ways you never imagined. People will question you. They will ask why you made a certain decision. They will demand explanations that you don't always have words for. But the truth is, you don't need to justify what you know in your spirit. You don't need to explain why you walked away from something that looked good on the surface but felt wrong in your soul. You don't need to convince anyone of what you sense, what you feel, what you just know. Not everyone has this gift. Some people move blindly, relying only on what they can see, what they can calculate, what makes sense on paper. But you move differently. You don't just trust what you see, you trust what you feel. And that ability, that's powerful, that's rare, that's something people don't always understand. Have you ever noticed how certain people are drawn to you? How they come to you for advice, for clarity, for direction? It's because they sense that you see things differently. You pick up on what's unspoken. You recognize patterns others miss. You understand things that go beyond the surface. But here's the challenge when you carry this level of awareness, when you have this gift of intuition. It can feel like both a blessing and a burden, because you don't just see the good in people, you see the truth. You see their intentions. You feel their energy. And sometimes that truth is heavy. Sometimes it's painful. You might find yourself distancing from certain people even when you can't fully explain why. You might feel uneasy in certain environments even when everything appears fine. You might struggle to fit in because you are not meant to follow the crowd. You are meant to move differently, to lead, to trust what others ignore. And that can be isolating. It can make you question yourself, especially when the world tries to tell you that what you feel isn't real. But every time you've doubted yourself, every time you've gone against that inner voice, haven't you always looked back and realized you were right? So stop questioning what you know deep down. Stop waiting for proof before you trust yourself. If something doesn't feel right, it isn't. If something keeps pulling at your spirit, listen. If something feels off, it is. You don't need validation from anyone. You don't need permission to follow your intuition. It has never failed you. It has only guided you toward what is meant for you and away from what is not. The only thing that has ever failed you is not trusting it sooner. When you start fully embracing this gift, when you stop ignoring your instincts and start moving with confidence in what you know, everything changes. You begin to align with the right people, the right places, the right opportunities. You stop entertaining what drains you. You stop explaining yourself to those who will never understand. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. And that is when you truly step into your power, because a woman who trusts her intuition is unstoppable. She is fearless. She moves with certainty. She does not chase, she attracts. She does not beg, she decides. She does not explain, she acts. So trust yourself. Trust that inner voice. Trust what you feel even when no one else understands it. Because that gift, that awareness, that knowing, it was never meant to make sense to them. It was meant to guide you. And the moment you start honoring it fully, without hesitation, without apology, without doubt, your life will never be the same. There is something different about you, and deep down you know it. You've always known it. You move differently. You think differently. You don't blend in with the crowd no matter how much you try, and that's because you were never meant to. You see, most people go through life seeking approval, chasing validation, trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for them. But you've always felt like you were on a different path. You've always sensed that your journey wasn't going to look like everyone else's. And while that realization is empowering, it can also feel lonely. There have been times when you questioned yourself. When you wondered why certain relationships fell apart, why certain doors never opened, why you never quite felt like you belonged. But here's the truth. Your path was never supposed to be ordinary. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to lead, to stand out, to rise above the noise. And that kind of purpose, it comes with isolation. Think about the times when you tried to fit in, when you lowered your standards to be accepted, when you silenced your voice to avoid standing out. It never felt right, did it? Because every time you betrayed yourself just to be liked, you felt more lost. Every time you ignored that feeling that told you this isn't for you, you ended up in places that drained you instead of elevating you. That's because you are not like everyone else, and not everyone is meant to walk with you. Some people will not understand you. Some people will be intimidated by your energy. Some people will distance themselves because they cannot handle your strength, your vision, your presence. And that's okay. Let them go. Because the more you try to hold on to what is not meant for you, the more you delay stepping into what is. You have to understand, when you carry something special, when you are set apart, you will not be for everyone. And that's a good thing, because you were not created to live an average life, surrounded by average mindsets, settling for average experiences. You were created for more, but stepping into that requires a shift. It requires you to stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. It requires you to stop seeking approval from those who will never see your worth. It requires you to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The right people, the ones meant for you, will recognize you without explanation. They will see your light without you having to dim it. They will support you without needing you to prove anything. And until you align with those people, you must be willing to stand alone. It will be uncomfortable at times. Yes, it will get lonely. But loneliness is not a punishment. It is preparation. It is in those quiet moments, in those seasons of solitude, that you truly discover who you are, that you refine your vision, that you grow into the person you are meant to be. So stop looking for belonging in places that do not align with you. Stop forcing connections that were never meant to last. Stop doubting yourself just because you walk a different path. You are not alone. You are just set apart. And that is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. Because the moment you fully accept that, the moment you stop resisting who you are and start walking in your purpose with confidence, everything changes. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself. You stop entertaining what no longer serves you. You stop looking for love, respect, and validation in places that cannot give it to you. And that is when you truly become powerful. That is when you step into a life that is aligned with who you were always meant to be. So stand tall, walk boldly, own who you are, because you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. Listen, favor isn't always about an easy life. It's about being chosen for a purpose bigger than yourself. If you see these signs in your life, don't ignore them, embrace them. Because once you understand that you are favored, nothing will ever shake you again. Now tell me, do you see the signs? If you do, then walk boldly in your favor.